and we are not in control of it. We're not taking charge of that relationship with it. And the nervous system is not regulated because you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed, you're not able to manage your emotions. They're just way too overwhelming for you. You don't know what the next decision is. So you're falling into a spiral of what should I do? And am I good enough? And is this really for me? And all of those thoughts then start to come back to creating this feeling state of anxiety, stress, overwhelm, which is then creating a nervous system response. Welcome back to the Essence Show and podcast, and to another episode in our mini Mindset Mastery series. We've been doing this for the last couple of weeks, and today we're going to dive back into one of the most incredible topics. I am going to geek the F out over this: nervous system regulation and what your nervous system in general has to do with mind mastery. So stay tuned for that. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow along so that you can get updated every single week with a new episode that comes out. I also encourage you to use this space to ask questions, to leave comments, to share what is coming up for you. Because as you share what's coming up for you, not only are you acknowledging that for yourself, but you're also finding your like-minded people who are experiencing the exact same things. And on top of that, this is the process, is that first step to actually shifting this for yourself. Because if it's all just kind of boggled up in your head or somewhere in your body, and you're not fully acknowledging that it's there, you're not fully giving words to it, not fully giving it the space, it's going to be really hard to actually do this shifting work. And of course, this space, this community, and this podcast, and the spaces beyond it, this is the place for you to start doing that work. This is where you are going to be incredibly supported in doing this very deep, powerful, transformational work. If this series has been resonating with you and you are thinking, yes, this is what I want more of this, she is speaking to me, I want to understand my mind, I want to understand how to regulate my emotions, I deeply believe that understanding how to work with these parts of my body, with these systems, is the key to liberating myself, to being able to surpass my limitations, to actually unlocking my true potential. You are correct. And I have something very special for you. I have a very exciting brand new course coming your way, and there is a waitlist that you can put your name on so that you can be the first to know about all the dates, when it's coming out, and also get some extra little backdoor bonuses, if we can call it that. So the waitlist links and everything is in the description below. This is Liberation. This is going to be an incredibly transformational journey. And what I do want to say is, at this point in time, who knows, if there's a huge wait list that comes through for this, and you're all telling me specifically that you want XYZ, and that's not 1000% what I've created, because of course this is already in the works, then I might change it. But right now it is currently a very condensed offer, which means that you can probably get through it within an hour. And I want it to stay something that is very manageable and digestible for you. So if you're thinking right now, oh my God, I'm just stepping into this, or I haven't looked at this in a really long time and I don't want it to be something that extra overwhelms me, that is the point. It is not. It is only here to hold and support you in doing this work. Okay, enough about that. Let's dive into today's episode on nervous system regulation. So the first thing that I think is really important to address here is why we're even talking about the nervous system, because what we've been talking about up until this point is the mind. It's happening up here. And the nervous system tends to be something that we feel in our bodies, right? We think, okay, my nervous system is down here somewhere, or we don't even have any idea what the nervous system is or where we might find it in the body. And the reason why the nervous system is so important in this conversation when we talk about mind mastery is because the mind, like we talked about last week, goes through this loop process of receiving the information from the world around us, taking it in, and then responding. And the nervous system is technically, to put it really briefly and shortly and condensed, it is the responder. Okay, so every time you have an experience out in the world and you think a thought about what that maybe means, the nervous system responds to that. And often it's a very automatic response because it is at its core here to protect you. And it's really important to connect these two systems, so the nervous system and the mind, the brain, because they are interconnected. They don't work or function without one another, but we tend to think or see them as separate from each other, especially when we think about our emotions versus our mind, our feelings versus our thoughts, when they are very intertwined. Because each time you think something, so you think a thought, you actually feel something as well. Every single thought has a feeling attached to it. And that's why our thoughts can be so incredibly powerful, because they are charged with a feeling that is related to that thought. That's why we can obsess about things that happen and we're thinking a lot of things, but it's coming from this charged emotional response to the situation. And so when we have our nervous system response, then we can logically think, ooh, my hand is on a hot boiler. Like my hand is on the stove. It's burning. It's burning and it hurts. But the nervous system is the action that then responds to move it away because we have a feeling. And of course, this is a physical feeling, but we can also have an internal feeling. We can have a feeling of sadness. We can have a feeling of stress, a feeling of anxiety. And the nervous system, being your responder, is so powerful because its goal is to help you stay safe, right? It doesn't want you to burn your hand on the stovetop. So it's going to say, hey, let's pull that away. However, the problem, or quote unquote problem, with the nervous system then comes up when we do not have a regulated nervous system. So kind of like the mind, we're just letting it run free. It's doing its thing. It's running the show. And we are not in control of it. We're not taking charge of that relationship with it. And the nervous system is not regulated because you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed, you're not able to manage your emotions. They're just way too overwhelming for you. You don't know what the next decision is. So you're falling into a spiral of what should I do? And am I good enough? And is this really for me? And all of those thoughts then start to come back to creating this feeling state of anxiety, stress, overwhelm, which is then creating a nervous system response. So it doesn't matter, for example, that you know that you're going into a job interview or a presentation at work or a conversation in a relationship that is stressful to you. It doesn't matter that you personally know that you're not going to die in this conversation. Your nervous system is simply responding to the stress that you are experiencing through the feelings and through the thoughts and through the understanding, the mind, of the situation, and is therefore creating this fight, flight, freeze, fawn response saying, hey, we are in danger. We're in danger right now, and this is an unsafe environment to be in. And that's when you start to have those anxious stress responses physically in the body, like your hands start to sweat, your heart starts to race, your breathing starts to become lighter. And this is all the nervous system responding for you. And the really important thing to understand here is that this is actually a really beautiful thing, because I can very much resonate and relate if you're thinking like, okay, well, this sucks. Like, this is a huge blow for me right now because this thing seems to kind of be in my way. And in reality, this thing, aka your nervous system, is here to support you. This thing is here to keep you safe. It wants you to survive. It's attached to the ego, and the ego is also attached to your physical being, this 5% of the conscious mind that we talked about in the first part of this series. And so when we're attached to our physical body and our conscious mind in this very limited part of our brain, we are wired for survival. So it's really important to understand here, no matter how much you're telling yourself in your mind, and again, if you're telling yourself this, you're talking to the 5% conscious part of your mind, not the other 95 subconscious part of your mind. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch part 1 of this series. But it doesn't matter how much you understand what's happening up here. If you're feeling stressed and the situation is telling you to be stressed, your body is going to respond as though it is in danger. And the really important thing here to understand is that when you are constantly living in the state of stress, because most of us have a deregulated nervous system because we don't know how to manage our emotions. We don't know how to address what's coming up. We don't have time to feel what we're feeling and let it go throughout our day. We don't have the tools or the systems in place to support ourselves to have enough time or space to actually come back to a calming state. And so we're basically spending all of our time in this fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode, or it's also known as the sympathetic nervous system. And we're not bringing ourselves back into the rest and digest nervous system, also known as the parasympathetic nervous system. So you don't need to remember all of these terms. I just want you to understand that there are these two places that we can be in. And we need a balance of both. We need a little bit of the stress to move us forward, but we need the balance of also calming ourselves and having the tools in place to bring ourselves back. But the most important point that I want you to take from all of this is that because we live in this heightened state of stress in our world today, and all these tiny little things trigger our nervous system response, like we're not actually being chased by a lion, we're just going into a job interview or a presentation, right? And we know we're not going to die, but we have the exact same response. And so if we're not tending to this nervous system, if we're not supporting ourselves in regulating our nervous system, we're going to just continue to heighten and heighten and heighten the state of stress in ourselves, within our body, and within our lives. And when this state of stress is heightened within our bodies, guess what we can't do? Regulate our mind, be in control of our mind, be in control of our emotions, be in control of our balance, and be in control of the levels of stress that we do or do not experience. And so if we want to master the mind, we have to also be able to master our nervous system. We have to be able to regulate our stress levels. And of course, those two things go hand in hand. We have to also understand how to bring our mind back to a place of letting it know that we're safe here, that this isn't actually a dangerous situation. And also letting it know that we can slow down and we can create space in our lives to do this work. And like I said, if we don't feel this balance internally because we are stressed, we are never going to feel it externally. And regulating your nervous system, there's lots of ways that you can do this and lots of different tools that you can find for this. If you just Googled that, there would be so many things that come up. But I'm going to teach you an exact framework for how to do this inside of Liberation. So make sure that you get your name on that wait list. To summarize this all really briefly, you want to make yourself feel safe. You want to let your body know and your mind know that it is safe so that you can regulate yourself. And as you regulate yourself from the inside, you end up regulating your life externally. So it goes from the nervous system to your mind, to your emotions, and in turn, how you show up and respond in the world. And that is that loop that we talked about in last week's episode. So I'm going to leave you at that. This was Mind Mastery Minis, the nervous system regulation. If there's anything that you feel like you're missing, if you want any clarification, if there's a topic around mind mastery that you would like for me to dive into in this series, please let me know. And I will see you back here next time.